I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
I joined the Navy to serve my country as a Navy SEAL. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open. I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed. Paralyzed Veterans of America was by my side from that moment on.
Since 1946, Paralyzed Veterans of America has kept a promise to our wounded veterans. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the benefits they've earned, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them.
To learn more, go to pva.org today.
Anticipate potential delays for the morning commute. In other news, a recent government report on prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
What are you talking about, man? Look at this stats.
It's about your right to be informed. Your right to access all types of information keeps us free as a nation.
No.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom.
Reaching residential areas by...
And your right to know about the world around us.
Look.
Some threats are obvious, some are easy to miss, but they all put our way of life at risk. We must defend against all of these threats, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Justified putting American troops in harm's way?
That's a great question.
We must protect our right to know before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
Anticipate potential delays for the morning commute. In other news, a recent government report on prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
Create offenses.
What are you talking about, man? Look at this stats.
Clark sheer athleticism.
It's about your right to be informed. Your right to access all types of information keeps us free as a nation.
No.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom
Reaching residential areas by...
and your right to know about the world around us.
Look.
Some threats are obvious, some are easy to miss, but they all put our way of life at risk. We must defend against all of these threats, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Justified putting American troops in harm's way.
That's a great question.
We must protect our right to know before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Good evening. Welcome to Therapy Ain't No Joke, in which this is the show designed to talk about all things mental health in our community and across the board. Good evening. I am the architect, Sean Garvey. You have me until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on all multiple streaming platforms, including YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 2 YouTube channels, by the way. Beat Break Radio and the Mental Space Live. All right, we are syndicated. We're not just only on YouTube, but we are also on your television screen. We are on Honey, as you can see at the top there of your screen. Honey, make sure you download the Honey app to your Roku TV or your Roku device to watch us live streaming on Roku, Honey. That's right, folks. We are experiencing some technical difficulties all day on the Honey app. We are working on some things to give you a better viewing experience by next week. So just bear with us. We appreciate your patience in advance. And we are also syndicated on the Flow Television Network. That means that we're not just only on the Flow, but we are also on Apple TV, Fire TV, and Android TV. We are everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You can check out our past archive shows of Therapy Ain't No Joke on Spotify and on iHeartRadio, iHeart Podcast, and wherever you get your podcast from. By next week, we will also be on Amazon Fire TV. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be on Amazon Fire TV. So we are expanding even more in syndication. I am so happy about that. And we got some great things getting ready to happen on the Honey channel. So I'm so looking forward to that as well. All right. If you are new to the program, like I said, this is the show in which we talk about all things considered mental health in our community and across the board. All right. We got a great show for you all tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have some special guests that are in the green room as we speak. But before I get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I got to remind you all that if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis or is thinking about taking his or her own life, make sure you dial the 988 number. Have that saved in your phone. You should have that number on speed dial right about now. That is 988. We're going to have that up in our showrunner in just a few moments. And if you are unable to dial 988, which is real simple, by the way, it's 988. You can also contact the National Alliance for Mental Illness helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI or 6264. Once again, that is 1-800-950-6264, or send them an email to info@nami.org. Operational hours are from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. It is almost 10 minutes after the top of the hour. Tonight's show is on my mental health journey. All right. We got a very, very important show. As always, this is our third week of Therapy Ain't No Joke. And let me just say this before we go into something that I want to play for you all tonight. We got some amazing episodes in the can and some amazing guests that we are going to be bringing on in the next couple of weeks. And let me let you all know how important this show really is. We always talk about mental health in any room, in any space, on any platform. But I want to ask you all this, to my listening audience. How important is it to really go seek therapy? How important is it? Because we can talk about mental health all day. We talk about mental health on this show, of course. But it's one thing to talk about it. It's one thing to have these podcasts, these shows, these programs, this type of content, talking about mental health, therapy, et cetera, et cetera. But how many people are actually going out to go seek therapy? Let me see by a show of hands who have already done the work or are planning to go see a therapist tomorrow. How many of you are really taking this therapy thing seriously? Like I said, it's one thing to talk about mental health and talk about the art of therapy. But how many of you are actually going out to seek a therapist? How many of you? I want you all to answer that question or put it in the comments section. We're also on Instagram at Sean Garvey ATL. You follow me there, and on Facebook at Sean Garvey. But how many of you are actually going out to doing the work or talking to a therapist, other than just listening to a podcaster or a broadcaster like myself or other online therapists? How many of you are actually doing the work? Okay, so just ponder on that, wonder on that for a moment there. All right, tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen, my mental health journey. And I came across this one person recently. And, I always love bringing on guests that want to have in-depth conversations about their mental health journey, right? Last week's show, we talked about unhealed dating. We're going to revisit that in just a few moments. And that's also on demand as well. But I come across so many people, you know, within the 3 years of me doing a mental health based radio program. And I hear so much of so many profound stories from mental health advocates and people dealing with some form of trauma, depression, anxiety, you name it. And I thought I'd bring this one person onto the show tonight to go more in depth about her mental health journey. Her name is Megan, by the way. She's an actress, a great one, I must say. And she sent me an audio that I'm going to play for you all. And she's talking about her own experiences of dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, and dealing with heartbreak, and even abuse at one point in time. So before we talk to Megan one-on-one, and we bring in another guest in just a few moments, I'm going to play this audio clip. It's only about 7 minutes and some change long, but I'm going to play the audio clip, and then we'll dive right into the conversation with Megan. So let's go ahead and pull the clip up so we can go ahead and play it, because I'm interested in talking to her one-on-one and then having another person talking to her and just having a dialogue on mental health. Why is it important to have these conversations and what she's doing to manage her well-being? So let's go ahead and play the clip, and then we'll get right back into the show. Therapy Ain't No Joke with Sean Garvey, almost 15 minutes past the top of the hour. Do we have that clip ready, producer? Okay, we have it ready. Go ahead. Let's play the clip.
Leahey, and I guess I've always had anxiety growing up. I could never make eye contact even when I was young. And then when I got older, I got so anxious. I went to a private school, and I would, people would bully me, and I would just sweat through my uniform, and I would get depressed because my grandma was going through some really bad health problems. I remember spending my birthday in the hospital with her, and just thinking that, like, nobody really cared about me. And then when I was 16, I had a seizure out of nowhere on a horse during a family reunion. And I went through a really tough time during that. I've always acted since I was young, and that's how I got, you know, my feelings out. And then my doctor said, well, you know, you probably shouldn't act on stage anymore. It would be best if you would do some other job. And I remember that so vividly. And I was like, that's never gonna happen. So I was diagnosed with that. And then when I went to grad school, because I wanted to keep acting, I refused to let anything down, even though I went through, at one point, I had this nervous breakdown where I was hallucinating and my depression was at an all-time high, and I was going through abusive boyfriends because I thought if I can't fix myself, I'll fix other people. So, anxiety, depression, toxic, manipulative, abusive boyfriends, and then on medication, and then I went to grad school and I started having, my legs would give out, and I started having these spasms. I was extremely on edge. I wasn't eating as I should. I was always dehydrated. And so I told my mom about this, and turns out I have an extremely rare disorder. A lot of people have never heard of it. It has to do with your mitochondria. And it has to also do with, it's progressive. So I still, to this day, I have my really good days and I have my really bad days, and I try to give a voice to those who don't, and I don't know where I'll be in 10 years. I hope I'll still be happy and healthy, but I remember my doctor, my neurologist, he told me, he knew nothing about this, but he said that I have probably 5 years to live. And that came from a man who knew nothing about it. And I broke up with my boyfriend because I said that he has a lot better to do with his life than be with me. I'm still in my healing phase. I am not dating. I'm just focusing on loving myself. So, I know that was more than a paragraph, and I apologize. But, it's been a long journey. So, thank you.
Welcome back to the Therapy Ain't No Joke show. What you just heard was Megan herself telling her own story, and we have Megan in the studio right now. Good evening, Megan. Welcome to Therapy Ain't No Joke.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on board. What a compelling story.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but something that we need to hear on tonight's show. Wow. I know there's a lot of things that are going through your mind right now, especially hearing your own story in that recording. What's going through your mind right now?
Right now, well, first of all, hearing your own voice is never great, but yeah, it's like, wow, I have been through a lot in my short life. And you know, I have done the work. I could do more because, you know, I heard you talking about doing the work, but I know I could do more. Like, for example, today I spent most of my day in bed because I just didn't want to get out of bed. But you know, I've been doing a lot better. Like a lot of during this week, I've been meditating. I've gotten back into acting. I'm in The Miracle Worker. It's a story about Helen Keller. I'm playing Helen Keller. So, and it makes me happy. Like, without acting, I don't know what I would do.
Do you see acting as some form of therapy to you?
Definitely. Definitely. And I worked with kids with disabilities. And half the cast had disabilities and half the cast didn't. And I saw how healing it was for those who had disabilities because they were playing someone else than who they were, you know? And it was just so beautiful to watch. So I'm always a huge advocate for acting.
I want to just go back into the recording to the beginning when you said you was a child and you was experiencing these different things or whatnot. And I know for me as a kid, even every kid, let me just speak in general for a moment. For every kid, he or she is going to go through their own adversities, their own challenges in life, whatever that looks like. And of course, we didn't know what mental health was. We didn't know what mental health was. We didn't know what trauma looked like. Or we know that when things happen to us, we later in life question ourselves. Was it my fault? Why did I get involved in this situation? Or what's going on with me? We tend to question a lot of things, right? So, you know, in your own childhood and experiencing these different things and stuff, like, did you have any type of support system that was in place that you could go run to or talk to about the different things that you were experiencing as a child at the time?
Right. So I'm an only child, and that's always a double-edged sword because, you know, you get all of the attention, whether it's good or bad. And, you know, my dad focused on work. He was never really home, so it was like mostly my mom. She was pretty much a single mom. and she was a workaholic. So I also had a lot of trauma during childhood, and those are your formative years. I had some, and what I didn't mention in my voice memo that I sent you is that I had some sexual abuse during my formative years. And I feel like whatever happens during those years can really affect who you are as an adult. So, anxiety, depression, that forms who you are. So yes, like I had my aunt, I had my mom. She was working a lot of the time. But I didn't really have someone I could always talk to and go to, and so I think that was a big thing with my mental health.
And as kids, we also had imaginary friends, right?
Yes.
As kids, that if we didn't have anybody to talk to or to go to for a conversation or guidance or what have you, we had these imaginary friends that we would talk to. And a lot of people back in the day thought that it was something wrong with us. It was something wrong with us talking to ourselves or talking to something or someone that didn't appear to be real to other people. Yeah, especially if you're on the outside looking in. And the thing, ladies and gentlemen, that me and Megan have in common is that we're both only children. I never had any siblings, but looking at it now, like my cousins have become my siblings. But with me being an only child and you being an only child, yeah, you're right. We didn't have the outlets, or if there were outlets at the time, we didn't have the access to go to those outlets to have a sit down and conversation with people to figure out what is actually going on, or just to have that safe space to really talk to somebody. You know what I mean? So, those. I mean, even though there were good moments in my childhood, there were moments where I look back now and I question it. Do you still, as an adult now, do you still question? Do you find yourself questioning those things that happened in your early childhood?
Do you mean
like in some instances, in some situations, just thinking back at it and like, why did this happen? Or do you think if I had did this kind of way, or if I had made this decision instead of going to that other path or what have you, my life would have been alternate. It would have been different from where my life is at now. Like, because I sometimes question my decisions, my choices, or certain things that I have come in contact with as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I sometimes question myself.
100%. Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking about that earlier today. Yeah, and it's something you could ask yourself, shoulda, coulda, woulda, all the time. But, I always think, that, for example, it's like, I can't find a job right now. A job or something within the industry as an actor. It's really hard. And so I'm like, what if I went with something in finance or majored in business? Because that's very stable, or maybe a nurse. I don't know. They're always they're always looking for nurses. But when I was studying acting, everybody was questioning me. They were like, "So what's your plan B?" And I was like, "Well, I don't need a plan B. I mean, lawyers don't, so why would I?" And I don't question myself now. I will never question myself because there's a reason I'm down this path. But I still do wonder, what if? You know?
The what ifs, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's always gonna be a what if.
There's always, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the what ifs. You know, I mean, sometimes we can't control the inevitable, or even at times we can't control certain things that come our way in life, but what we can control is self-control.
Right.
That is what we can control, self-control. You know, there's people out here that take things out on other people because of their own discretions, their own personal discretions, or their bad choices, or their form of lack of awareness or mental illness, or whatever they're facing, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would see something on television, right? Like, speaking of entertainment business, because we're in the same field, and I would see this person on television, younger than me, that have made it, that are now larger than life, right? They've made it and everything, and that just does something to me at 40. I'm 40 years, and it just does something to me. Like, man, you know, I put in all this work, I put in all this effort in my career and everything. I should be where that person is at right now. You know what that does to me mentally? But I have to. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, it's almost like, what did they do, or how did they, like, it's like, am I not good enough? That's what's like replaying in my head. Am I not good enough? Like, what do I need to do? Or what am I not doing? Or like, I've been in Atlanta for this amount of time, and I've been auditioning, and yeah, I expect no's, I expect rejections, because it's a part of the job. But what am I doing wrong? So it's hard, but you know, I keep telling myself, I'm like, okay, I can do it, it's gonna happen. But I've come to learn that, you know, we have no control over anything in life. And my mom has said, we just make all of these plans in life, and God is up there laughing at our plans because they don't. I'm not saying this correctly, but God is up there laughing at our plans because he has something in store for us. So I try to keep that in mind.
You got to keep that in mind. You got to have a positive mindset in this challenging, uncertain world that we in right now. And it's always good to have a positive mindset, even when you're not where you need to be or you're facing a certain type of circumstance. Because if you always think negative, 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 it's going to always be negative, and it's going to be more fires on top of fires on top of fires, and you're not going to be able to get the extinguisher out to, put the fire out, and I think that's just something that we have to keep in mind as mental health advocates or just people that are going through our own mental health journey like you are going through, and just have a positive mindset. I want to do this, Megan. I want to bring Angela Williams from Angela's Voice on in just a few moments. We're going to take a quick break from the radio and from the TV, so that way we can bring Angela into the studio and have a conversation with her. She's going to talk about her own mental health journey and just have a one-on-one conversation between you and Angela, because there's some things there, Angela, and Megan, of course, Megan with us. Some things there that you want to be able to peel back the layers and be able to express yourself fully on your journey and why therapy is not a joke. It's important to not just only you, but to all of us. So I want to hear more about your story. I'm going to do some more revisits in just a few moments, and stick around, okay? So, hey, Megan, you're going to hang out with us, right? You're going to still hang out with us? And
oh, heck yeah.
In-depth conversations, so we'll go more in depth. All right, great. It is Therapy Ain't No Joke with Sean Garvey. Coming up next is more of our conversation with Megan and Angela Williams from Angela's Voice in just a few moments. Stay tuned. It is Therapy Ain't No Joke right here on the Flow Television Network, as well as on Honey and wherever you get your streaming from. We will be right back after these messages.
I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
I joined the Navy to serve my country as a Navy SEAL. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open. And I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed. Paralyzed Veterans of America was by my side from that moment on.
Since 1946, Paralyzed Veterans of America has kept a promise to our wounded veterans. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the benefits they've earned, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them.
To learn more, go to pva.org today.
Welcome back to Therapy Ain't No Joke. Sean Garvey hanging out with you, ladies and gentlemen. And for all of my Georgians out there and everybody that is currently taking the necessary precautions, please stay safe. Hurricane storm is in effect for all parts of Georgia and outside of it. We are in hurricane season, so I want to advise everybody to please stay safe and continue to take the necessary precautions to make sure you stay safe. If you're just now joining with us, we are talking to actress Megan in the studio with us this evening on Therapy Ain't No Joke. And we, of course, at the beginning of the show, we played an audio clip of Megan detailing her mental health journey. And she also went more in depth about it. You know, I was asking her a few questions about her mental health, her journey from childhood all the way up to now. And we have a few things in common. We're in Georgia. I'm assuming you are still in Georgia, right?
I am.
You are in Georgia. I'm in Georgia as well. Just came back from Florida, and I'm here. It was meant for me to be back here in Georgia.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm happy to be back and happy to be on the show talking to you and all things considered mental health, because it's a very important conversation that we're having tonight. Joining with us on the show here is the founder and owner of Angela's Voice, and she is joining with us this evening to talk about all things considered mental health and to have a one-on-one conversation with our very special guest, Megan. So please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming Angela A. Williams from Angela Voice. Good evening, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm so sorry I'm not on camera, but definitely happy to be with you, Steve and Megan. Your story is so similar to so many that have suffered sexual abuse as a child. So I just want to say that my heart goes out to you. And sometimes we just need to stay in bed all day. So don't beat yourself up over that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that's just what we need.
Exactly.
And before I started this show, both of you all, I wanted to stay in bed all day. And I have a tendency, and this is a habit of mine, I have a tendency to work a lot. So I am not just only the host of the show, but I'm also the owner of my production company. And us as entrepreneurs, and I know you can, to some extent, Angela, relate, is that us as entrepreneurs, we're nonstop. We sometimes don't know to put the phone down at times, or to shut off the computer, or to shut off the laptops and things of that sort. And as a founder of your own organization, of your own company, do you find yourself guilty at times? I hate to use the word guilty, but do you find yourself at times, having to be on the go all the time, with your phone, with your computer, with your laptop, and your other professional needs? Do you find yourself, in that habit at times?
Steve, you don't even know the half of it. I am guilty as charged. I also run a real estate company. I'm a real estate broker. So I do my ministry work with survivors of child sexual abuse. I have a podcast called Voice Up for the voiceless, and yes, run a nonprofit organization. So I do find it hard to sit down, but part of my healing too is to take care of myself and to love myself. And there's only 24 hours in a day. And I think it's challenging for those of us that suffer with anxiety, depression. We also suffer with rejection. We don't want to say no to anybody because we don't want, that rejection. We want to be a people pleaser. So yeah, definitely. I find it very difficult to slow down. And on top of that, I am in the process of helping my daughter who has an 8-week-old. So I'm pretty exhausted. Yeah, it's fun, but oh my gosh, infants are no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you both feel this, but I almost feel guilty if I sit down for more than like an hour or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, I need to get up and do something.
Yes. I heard a long time ago that God called us human beings, not human doings. And he expects us to just be, and he tells us in his word to be still and know I'm God. So I think reminding myself that I don't have to do anything more to please God. He loves me just the way I am. So there's nothing I can do to make him not love me. There's nothing I can do to make him love me more. So I kind of play that in my head a lot.
I like that.
And Megan, I'm also a survivor. I was sexually abused from age 3 to 17 by my stepfather.
Oh my
So
God.
I can definitely relate to that trauma, that childhood trauma, and how it manifests into adulthood. And you can't go through that kind of trauma and not have a residual effect of anxiety and depression. And I'm curious to ask you, when did you break your silence? When did you tell someone?
I told someone, so with the help of a therapist, I recently told, let's see, so I'm 28. I told my parents at the age of 27.
Wow.
So I was a little, they were like, oh, okay. They didn't
understand how it impacted you in such a traumatic way. How old were you when you were abused?
3 till I was probably 10.
10? It's a long time, Megan. Yes. That's a long time. I know you don't want to disclose your abuser, but was it a family friend or was it in the family?
It was in the family.
Well, that makes it even more challenging and more difficult for family to receive. So I'm sure your mother and father, it's easier to pack it away and put it under the rug instead of face it.
Oh, yeah. They didn't obviously want to do anything to cause drama. So.
Yes. So then that turns the table on you. That, what did I do wrong? I was the victim.
Exactly.
I didn't ask for this. And here you're going to side with the perpetrator and not stand up for me and not give me justice and not fight for me.
Yes.
So a lot of that may have compounded, compounded some of the struggles that you've had from depression and anxiety and wanting a response that you didn't get. I find that a lot with survivors that I work with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I would not doubt if that started my anxiety.
Sure.
And then now my depression probably comes from my health problems that I don't know.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling now?
I'm doing great.
You look great. You look healthy.
Thank you. I didn't put too much makeup on, but
Oh, you're a natural beauty.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, it's just feeling lonely because nobody really understands what I'm going through. But you know what? I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what Sean's going through. Nobody knows. We carry a bag of rocks with us every day. So, we just got to be kind to everybody.
And kind to ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, I think as survivors, we tend to carry shame for what happened and we tend to kind of beat ourselves up. It's like, okay, why didn't I tell? Why didn't I scream? Why didn't I, do something? And you're so manipulated as a child that I got to a place in my own mental health journey where I had to look at another 3-year-old and say, okay, even like in the grocery store, if I'm past a 3-year-old, it'll just come to my mind. It's like that little precious child had no power to protect herself. She had no power to speak up. She didn't have any words to even say what was happening to her. So I try to look at myself. No, she didn't know what it was. So I look at myself and look at a 3-year-old child and I give myself more grace and try to let that 3-year-old heal the 4-year-old Hill, the 5-year-old Hill, the 6-year-old Hill, the 7-year-old Hill, the 8-year-old Hill, the 9-year-old Hill, and you get my drift, because it didn't stop till you were 10, and then you carried the secret, so it still didn't stop.
Yeah,
for a long time.
Our inner child is still inside of us.
Yes, we're like a tree. We're like those rings on a tree.
Yeah.
So we are every age we've ever been.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
we just gotta, like you said, give ourselves grace, and love everybody. Not everybody who has been in our shoes, but just,
sure. Well, I think we have to, and I wrote a book that got released last September, because it was really the last. I've written several books. If any of our guests want to check them out, it's at angelasvoice.com/resources. And there's 14 books there. But this particular one was called Loving Me After Abuse, because it was kind of my last frontier, is to learn how to love myself, because I beat myself up so much for so long. And I can't heal without giving myself some grace, and really understanding that I had no power as a child, but I do have power now to choose. To choose to be happy, to choose to take care of myself, to choose to sit down when I need to sit down, to choose to love, to choose to forgive. So it's got to start, I think, with ourselves, understanding that trauma takes a toll on us.
Yeah.
And we absolutely have to do the work that we need to do to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And Steve, there's no apostrophe at Angela's Voice. It's just angelasvoice.com for our viewers.
Okay, Angela's Voice. Okay.
Yeah, no apostrophe, that confuses it.
Okay, we'll make sure we edit that out.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. For those who are just tuning in, Therapy and No Joke with Sean Garvey, with my special guests Megan and Angela K. Williams of Angela's Voice. We're talking about my mental health journey. I want to go over to you, Angela, and I want to come in and ask you this regarding sexual abuse and child abuse, and how rare is it, even nowadays in 2024, is it becoming more of a often thing for children to find themselves in that predicament and that circumstance when it comes to child abuse? Like, how rare is it nowadays?
So a good average is about 1 in 10 children. CDC statistics kind of change, but their latest statistic was 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 16 boys. Boys don't disclose as much as girls do, so I think that statistic is a lot higher. Only 1 in 10 will ever tell. The average age of disclosure is 53 years old. So if you do the math, then we are way off on those statistics. In my mind, and the people that I meet, I would say about 50% of children have some form of sexual abuse, whether it's exposure to pornography, whether it's peer-on-peer abuse, whether it's family, friends. 93% of the time, it's someone the child knows, loves, and trusts. So guess what? It's someone that their parents know, love, and trust, which seals the secret even more, because the child begins to try to protect the perpetrator. And they're manipulated. This is our little secret. We're not going to tell anybody. And as a child, you want to please an adult. With my stepfather, he threatened to kill my mother if I ever told. And if I ever was not submissive, he would severely abuse her in front of me and say, see what you caused, see what you're doing. So pedophiles, abusers of children, they are, they're devious, they're evil, and they need help. They need help. But you look at even pornography, the leading production of pornography includes children. And even children involved in bestiality, which is a whole nother level. There's a huge appetite for child pornography that has increased, I would say, over the last 10 years exponentially. It's a $97 billion industry. 97, wrap your head around that. 97 billion. 93% of it is produced in the U.S. So I could bore you all night with statistics, but it is a serious problem. And yes, it's getting worse because our children are so sexualized in everywhere they turn.
Megan, do you have kids of your own or no?
I don't.
No. So you can, imagine if you had kids and you was a parent and, your kids are in this world where they are now exposed to everything from billboard signs, television, you name it, even other people. And how cautious of a parent, could you imagine how cautious you would be if you had kids and,
It's crazy. I mean, I have a lot of friends these days that are just saying, I don't even know if I want to have kids and bring them into this world because of how just the world, the environment, the everything right now is just, I don't know if I want to bring a being into this world.
Wow. Angela.
The greater the evil, the greater our God is. So we have to trust that good will prevail over evil. And there's a verse in scripture, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and called according to his purpose. So I stand on that, and I stand and use the pain that I've gone through for purpose to try to help others.
Right. Yeah, it's a wild world right now. But yeah, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, even when I hear someone, and it's not just only you, Megan, but I've also heard people that at one point in time wanted to be parents, wanted to bring kids into the world, and now they don't because of where the world is at and just the number. I mean, even Angela broke it down, the statistics nowadays, and they are just skeptical of having kids being born into the world and being exposed to every and all things and every and all people. It's kind of somewhat daunting, if I could use that adjective word. It's scary to have that mindset. You really want to be a parent, you want to bring a new life into the world, but you also have that uncertainty of your child being born into the world, and they might, or he or she might go through the same scenario, the same situation that you went through as a kid, and you want to protect, you want to be able to be a protective parent and protect your children and protect your kids, so that way they won't face the same fate that you want to face.
Well, unfortunately, we're in a society where parents are oblivious and think it's not going to happen to my child. So what we do at Angela's Voice is try to equip parents and provide resources. So there's a book also called Tough Talk to Tender Hearts, which helps parents layer conversations throughout a child's life of what do you say to a child to equip them, prepare them, help them face the risk of sexual abuse, know how to scream no, know that no one's supposed to touch them with their bathing suit covers, know the anatomical names of their body parts. So there are things that parents can do to be vigilant and to help children face the risk of sexual abuse and not be susceptible to abuse. So that's part of my mission, is to say, not on my watch will a child be sexually abused. But there's a lot stacked against children. It's not only the abuse, but our court system too. Unless there's just an ironclad case, so few cases actually get prosecuted. So pedophiles rarely ever come to justice. So it's very convoluted. It's a big problem that we just have to eat it like an elephant, one bite at a time.
Angela Williams of Angela's Voice, along with Megan. We at the top of the hour. This is Therapy Ain't No Joke with Sean Garvey. If you are just tuning in to the program, the showrunner, My Mental Health Journey with Megan and Angela Williams of Angela's Voice. We're talking about all things considered mental health and Megan's journey to recovery, and just the fact that she is here with us speaks volume. We And I say that with full honesty, Megan, because there are people, unfortunately, that are not here with us today to even share their story with us from an unfortunate standpoint. And I want to, I mean, you're more than welcome to comment on that before we visit a part of a show that we did last week. We're going to get into that in just a few moments. But just by me saying that, Megan, were there times where you thought about doing the opposite, doing the unthinkable from all the things that you went through in your life, just by you being very candid in the audio recording that we played earlier in the broadcast? Talk to us. Were there times where it was just so dark you was just about to throw in the towel, or thought about throwing in the towel?
Yeah. There has been a few times. And I mean, there were times where I was just on the ground crying, being like, I mean, what else am I going to do with my life? I mean, this is a progressive disorder. The doctor said I have 5 years with my life, though this doctor knew nothing about my disorder. And I mean, this doctor 6 months later passed away. Now, I went and found a specialist, and he said that I am like a beacon of light, because a lot of people at my age, first of all, don't even make it to my age. Second of all, I should be in a wheelchair or with a walker or something like that. There is no known cure, but my family and I are going to conferences, and I am an ambassador. So I am a mentor to kids, teens, young adults who don't really have a voice. Some of them are nonverbal. And being an ambassador, anybody who is newly diagnosed comes to me, and I help the families. And I am very happy that I can be the one to help those in need. And I want to be, earlier, I was willing to just throw in the towel. I wasn't wanting to be there for myself. I wasn't, I was put on this earth to take care of a human being myself, and I didn't want to do that. And now I feel like I have a purpose, and that's to help those without any voice. And I think I'm here to help people. Now, my doctor says I'm not progressing anymore. So that's amazing.
I believe in miracles. That's a miracle.
Yeah.
So I am here living by myself. I shouldn't even be able to do that. And I'm acting, I'm happy. And I mean, not every day. But yeah, I'm living life.
Well, it sounds like your work and your ministry is bringing you more healing.
Yes.
And I say, don't let anybody speak a death sentence over you. So we just bind that. And we all are going to live till we die. I could walk out and get hit by a car tomorrow. None of us know. We just have to live till we die.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my story right now.
You have hope. I think people go to a place of suicide when they lose all hope. I myself tried to commit suicide several times, and very seriously, like had the plan, executed the plan. I took 64 sleeping pills and drank a half a bottle of vodka straight, and very well could have by the grace of God that He saved my life. So I know that hopelessness, and I just feel like you have no choice, and the world would just be better off without you. You convince yourself of that. You tell yourself, I say the big lie, and it is such a lie because our lives are precious.
Yeah. I just felt like such a burden, like for a while. Yeah, but I no longer feel that. So.
Yeah. I want to ask Angela this, listeners and viewers that are tuning in. I did a show on WAOK called The Mental Space, of course. And once upon a time, I had a gentleman on that called into the radio program, and he had thoughts about taking his own life. He had suicidal thoughts because his company wasn't going the way he wanted to go. He got, put into positions where he came across a lot of fraudulent activity or fraudulent people. He was losing a lot of money, and he one day was broke, one day was poor, and he thought about taking his own life. And so for you, Angela, as people, we do the work. We out here doing the work. We out here having these platforms and we having these conversations. But when you're having a conversation with that person who are having those suicidal thoughts, like from your expertise, what do we have to take into consideration when we're engaging in conversations or talking to people that have those thoughts? What do we need to be mindful of?
Well, Sean, I think if people are having thoughts, then that they need to get help immediately. So I think encouraging them to reach out and to tell people around them that love them and support them and encourage them to be honest, to say, I am struggling to the point of wanting to take my life. So to encourage them that someone needs them, loves them, supports them, and their life is more than money. Their life is more than success. Their life has value. And so to help them know that there's hope. And I have a strong faith in Jesus Christ. And that's what brought me back from the depths of darkness. And to encourage them that God loves them and God created them for purpose. And you know what? When He closes one door, He opens another one. So just because this door is closing and you've lost all your money, well, guess what? Tomorrow is a new day. The sun is going to rise and there'll be new opportunity with that day. So just encouragement. And for anyone that's listening, I just want to encourage you to seek help, to tell somebody, to open your mouth and say, I am struggling. And I think people in our society, and it may be just perceived, but there's such weakness in seeking mental health. There's such weakness. They perceived that you seem weak if you need to go to therapy or go to counseling, or that you're struggling mentally. Where if you are struggling physically, or you have a physical ailment, or you're struggling with cancer, or you're struggling with something, you can tell somebody and get the support. But for some reason, there's this big wall when it comes to our mental health. So I just want to encourage people, call a friend, call a family member, just to say, I am struggling and I need help. And I hope a friend will get in the car and come immediately and say, you're not doing this alone. You're not alone in this. You have somebody that loves you.
Yeah. And it goes back to the support system that I was talking about.
Exactly.
And having that support system. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, you're tuning in, at the bottom of the screen there, you see the 988 number listed. below the screen. You can dial the Crisis and Suicide Lifeline 988 if you or someone you know is facing a mental health crisis. That's 988, the opposite from 911. But dial 988. Operators are standing by to take your phone calls. For those who are just tuning in, we are talking to Megan and Angela K. Williams, founder of Angela's Voice, on Therapy Ain't No Joke every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming from the Flow Television Network and Honey. I want to switch gears for one moment, Megan and Angela. Two things I want to go over or cover with you all on tonight's broadcast. Going back to Megan in the audio recording, and she spoke about this just a few moments ago about being in the space where she is just focusing on herself, her mental health journey, and not trying to date, not going out on any dates, not doing anything pertaining to dating right now, but just focusing on your mental health journey. And so I want to revisit the episode that I did with Shanta Hayes. By the way, you can check it out on demand on Spotify and iHeartRadio. We did a show, Angela, about unhealed dating.
I watched it. I watched the show today.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. What are your thoughts on the episode and the conversation that we had on that topic?
Well, I think you bring unhealed trauma into every relationship. So that's why it's so critical, and especially an intimate relationship where you're seeking a soulmate or seeking someone to spend the rest of your life with. And if you got your bag of rocks, as Megan said, you got your big old bag of trash that you're dragging around with you, you filter that trauma through every conversation. And so, and I am very blessed. I've been married for 40 years. I'm a lot older than you guys. I'm 60 years old. So I've been married since I was 20, so 40 years, and I married my soulmate, and he's precious, and we have an amazing, passionate, loving relationship.
Oh, wow.
But he healed with me. He helped me heal. So I say we kind of grew up together, and we did our healing together. He came from a lot of trauma too. But I think that people have to recognize until they are healed and okay with themselves and love themselves, it's hard to come into a relationship because no one is going to complete you. And you can't change somebody else to make them what you want them to be. So, I did listen to it. I thought it was a really great show. And I do think that the dating apps has taken away a lot of the really intimate moments of meeting and letting a spark happen organically. I think we're forcing relationships by the swipe left, swipe right, and we're evaluating people on their looks, their weight, their job, versus the chemistry that is just this reaction that happens between two people. My husband and I literally saw fireworks over his head. Like fell madly in love with him probably within the first 30 minutes of our date, and just was giddy and trying not to let him know this, trying to play it cool. Like, okay, trying to let there be a little bit of a chase in it. But I'm really kind of disappointed in what the dating world has become, because I think we've lost that spark that happens across the room, in the romance that's there naturally, the chemistry that is there naturally.
Well, I want to stay on that. Let's stay on that, Angela. You established that you 40 years, you and your husband, 40 years. And did I hear that correctly?
40 years next year. Yes.
40 years. Okay. 40 years next year.
We were married in 1985. So we celebrate our 40 year, 2025. So almost there.
See that. And I said this, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be clear. I've said this. I do not want to get dating and or relationship advice from nobody unless they are close to 40 years in.
I'm there. I'm your girl. I'm there.
I want to be, because I want to go back to something that you said. He came in, he had trauma, and you had, your past and what have you. But we would think on the outside looking in, Angela, we would think that it would be something where two people come in to the relationship unhealed, or they had some type of baggage or some type of past or what have you. It would not make it. It would not materialize at all. So how did you two make it work though? How did you all make it work?
So I write about this in another one of my books. It's called From Sorrows to Sapphires. And I really dive deep into our relationship because for so long I pushed him away. I really felt like he needed a girl who had not gone through so much trauma, that he needed a girl who was healed, that he needed, little Miss Sunshine. And here I am. I've been on my own since I was 17. I ran away from home. I worked 3 jobs. I was trying to send myself through college. I really didn't have time for a relationship. So really pushed him away. And we became really close friends. And I was trying to set him up with other girls. So for months, we were just buddies. And I said, I'm not going to date you. I don't want a relationship. Now, mind you, I had gone out with him. He had done me a huge favor and I had just taken him out to dinner as friends. But literally inside, my stomach was doing flips and knew that I loved this man, but I loved him so much. I wanted him to have a good, healthy, happy relationship. And I didn't think I could do that. So the harder I ran, the harder he chased. And so when he finally told me he loved me, I tried to cut the relationship off. I'm like, no, you can't love me. That's off limits. You have to just leave. Like, we can't even be friends anymore. We're not crossing this boundary. So, he just persisted. And I finally gave up and I said, okay, we'll give it one shot. And if it doesn't work in dating, then we're going to walk away and we're going to be friends and we're going to call it a day. And so, we just had a love. I think he's my soulmate. And I think I do believe that everyone does have a soulmate. And I think I was so fortunate to meet him so young. And we both fought for our marriage. We didn't give up. We always said, we're not getting out of the car. This marriage is our car. Nobody's opening the door and getting out. We're going to duke it out inside this car. We're going to make it work. And we fought really hard. There were hard times. There were hard days. I went through a lot of PTSD. I went through a lot of nightmares. I went through a lot of, you can't touch me like that. You can't breathe on my neck like that. You can't, just from everything my stepfather had done to really pervert sex and intimacy. I gave him a run for his money. And then his mother was an alcoholic. So he had mother issues. And we just kept fighting through the healing. We just kept trying to heal together. And I wouldn't say at the beginning of our marriage, but I would say probably 10 years in, we decided to put God first in our marriage. And we decided to grow in our faith together. And we pray together every morning. We have devotional time every morning. And that was really a turning point, I think, in our healing process. But it's a miracle, but we did heal together, but we knew we needed to heal. I think a lot of people mask. They put their pain in a Pandora's box and they close the lid and they think it's going to go away. Where we did the opposite. We did the hard work together to know that, okay, we want a happy family. We want good, stable children. And we didn't do it perfectly. We weren't perfect parents, but my daughter is an OBGYN. A very successful doctor, and my son is a police officer. So they're both on the front lines. They're both great human beings, and they have great marriages themselves. So I like to think we did something right.
Wow. I'm listening to this, and my mind is blown because today in the dating world and the dating apps and the dating climate with people that have so much going on and so much that they're holding on to going into a platform and meeting new people, it's like, I haven't seen so many people giving up. It's crazy to me. It's insane to me. And, I find myself in so many occasions where I would be in the friend zone a lot. Like, can we be friends, or I'm just not there yet? And that sort of thing. And I was like, okay, does that friend zone mean that I need to start chasing you? Or is it like, okay, you giving up on something that could be a blessing to both of us down the road?
Well, I think it has to start with a friendship. I mean, my husband is my best friend. So I think if you start with a friendship and see what happens organically, See if you have butterflies. See if you miss them. See if you want to call them. See if you can't, like, we can't hardly breathe without each other. Like, we love being together so much and we have so much fun together. So I think it has to start with a friendship. But I think the whole dating app situation has a lot of expectations, that it has to happen immediately or you move on to the next one,
Right.
It's like, if it doesn't happen the first 3 dates, well, I'm out of here. So if there is something there and when you're attracted to somebody, I mean, come on, when you got that spark, that little feeling in the pit of your stomach. So that's the beginning of it. And then see what happens naturally. Give it some time. Nobody has any patience anymore.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is welcome to the microwavable society of dating right now.
Yeah. I mean, Sean, my advice would be to have no expectations. Don't put expectations on people because they're going to let you down. They are always going to let you down. So take expectations off the table. Let's just go have fun. Let's go hike a mountain. Let's go jump out of an airplane. Let's go have some fun together and see how you interact,
Yeah. Megan, I'm looking at you and I know your mind must be blown away just as mine is. So, but your situation, especially in the dating world, at least recently, is a bit different and even at times very bittersweet and tragic at times from what you illustrated. But, kind of let us know, like, what is it that really made you say, hey, and I'm just going to take a break from dating for a while to focus on my mental health journey. Like, what is it that you don't want to happen if you were to put yourself in a place where you're back out there in the dating market?
Well, I'm definitely an empath. I'm very much like, I don't know why, but I'm like, I have like a sonar where I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is broken. I need to like go help them. And I have learned boundaries. So, I found the red flags and I don't want any more red flags. I don't want any more toxic masculinity. I don't want somebody that is going to treat me badly, like they have in the past. So because it's just like, I want someone who just would it would just come organically, like naturally. So right now I am just focusing on myself. I am loving myself because it's cliche, but if I can't love myself, I really, truly cannot love someone else fully. So.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's put a bookmark there because I want to go back over to Angela and to you, Megan, because I hear that word a lot in conversations as it ties in with mental health. Toxic masculinity.
Yes.
I hear that so much. What do you define, Angela? What do you define as toxic masculinity?
Power. I think men want power over women. And my husband puts me on a pedestal and just worships the ground I walk on. And I think my stepfather, who was abusive, very abusive to my mother, very abusive, of course, to me, and not just sexually. I had emotional abuse, had physical abuse. So I think the toxic masculinity is someone that wants power. And I think that comes with narcissism. I think they have a narcissistic personality where it's all about me, me, me. versus putting the woman in their life before them, willing to lay down their lives. My husband he would take a bullet for me. I had no question. He would lay down his life for me in a New York second. And I think men who are into themselves and are selfish and are abusive. And I always tell, I mentor a lot of women, and I tell them, I said, if they show you the true colors, run. Don't think it was a one-off. Don't think that, oh, he was having a bad day. If you see the true colors, you run the other direction because you don't need that in your life. Mm-hmm. So I would say toxic masculinity is men that want power and control over women, and they do it manipulatively. They do it abusively. They do it selfishly. And that's I don't know if that's the real definition, but that's my definition.
Mm-hmm. And those were some of the things that you witnessed, that you experienced, Megan, in your dating life from what you illustrated previously, right?
And I also think that men have been raised, I'm so sorry, Megan, hold that thought, put a pin in there. I think men have been raised with a steady appetite of pornography, and that's where they're learning how to treat women. And 99% of pornography comes with violence in sex and intimacy. So I think that that's part of our problem. It's a societal problem, that young boys are being introduced to pornography and sex through pornography and trained versus a mother and a father teaching them what a loving, kind, giving relationship is and what needs to happen in a sexual, intimate relationship. And it is not what is portrayed in porn.
A combination of so many things that can contribute to toxic masculinity.
Yes.
But to you, Megan, because you really explained it earlier about being in an abusive relationship, not just with just one guy, but with multiple guys, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the, I guess, toxicness, we're going to make that a word. So the things I experienced were, I experienced love bombing, which I guess if nobody has heard of that.
I have.
It's a narcissistic trait too. It's number one narcissistic trait is love bombing.
Yes, and I experienced that a lot. I also experienced a lot of gaslighting. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I crazy? Or did this happen? Or did this not happen? So that happened. Then actually physical abuse happened when I was getting intimate. This guy would actually hit me with a belt multiple times. And I would just have marks all over my body.
And you didn't call 911, Megan. Come on, girl.
I don't even know if I should say this. This guy told me he was in a gang later in the relationship, and then I did not know how to leave the relationship.
Oh, goodness.
So,
wow.
That's another story. Yeah. So he was scary. Just people being like, you're taking advantage of my walking over me and my niceness. I was just going to say that you're kind, because that's the energy that we're getting from you. You're very nice. You're very kind. Yeah.
You're vulnerable. Your vulnerability.
Vulnerable. Yeah.
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 Which is a great trait. You know, a lot of survivors put up walls and get really tough elephant skin. They won't let anybody in. Yeah. So being vulnerable is part of your healing. I'm sure you had to get to a place of vulnerability. Yeah. I know I did. I had a lot of walls built, a lot of walls. And I've been in abusive relationships. Before I met my husband, was in a horrible relationship where I was being so taken advantage of and abused. And I just, I remember just kind of falling to my knees on a gravel road in front of his house and thinking, God, what did I do to deserve this? I don't want this. This is not, I've just gotten out of 14 years of abuse. And here I'm right back where I started from in another abusive relationship. And I was like, I'd rather be by myself than have this. And just cried out. It's like, I don't, if I can't have a good man, I don't want any man at all.
I don't think I've to this day have had a totally healthy relationship. So it's just like, I would prefer to be single than just...
We're going to pray for that. I'm just going to pray over you. I'm going to pray for a good, healthy relationship because you deserve it. You've been through so much. You've been through so much.
It's made me stronger.
Yes, I can tell you're one tough cookie.
I am. Maybe it's Irish. And...
I just want to say
pretty red hair.
Yeah. I just want to say this. FYI, I do a show called Soul Dates Live outside of Therapy Ain't No Joke. We had a woman that came on the show last week, and different situation, but she's been on the dating apps and she comes across a lot of toxic masculinity type of people. So we're trying to get her on the show, not on this show, but on Soul Dates Live. So maybe there's a little bit of hope for you, Megan. We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline, But any advice, Angela, before we go to our last topic, any advice you want to give to women like Megan that are in that vulnerable state and that are still going through their mental health journey after so many failed relationships? Any advice?
Yeah. Well, I love what your guest had said in your last show, to really seek out encounters with men that maybe you have a reference. Maybe it's a friend of a friend that you know something about them, some history. It's just not kind of a cold call or blind date, which is what you get on the dating apps. And I would also say, when they show you their true colors, the first second you run, you go the opposite direction. This relationship is over. You block them, you move on, because those true colors, they can fake it for a while, but time always tells. And value yourself enough to not accept any type of abuse, be it physical, emotional, sexual. Just value yourself. You deserve more than that.
Indeed. All right. For those who are just tuning in to the last part of Therapy Ain't No Joke from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Wednesday night on Honey and on the Flow Television Network and on YouTube, wherever you get your streaming content from. We're talking about my mental health journey with our special guests, Megan and Angela K. Williams, founder of Angela's Voice. And our last part of the conversation, as it ties in with mental health, of course, we are about 21 days in from the tragic event that took place in a local school here in Georgia, the mass shooting that took place in Winder, Georgia. And I want to get your take on it, Angela, as well as Megan, as we're talking about my mental health journey, as we are all three. I'm assuming you, Angela, you are in the state of Georgia as we speak. As Georgians, as people that are currently residents of Georgia, how close did it hit home to you from the tragic shooting that took place in that local school in Winder, Georgia? Let's start with you, Megan. Did it hit close to home to you?
It did. So I'm a native to Florida, Orlando, Florida. And I don't know if you've heard of the Pulse shootings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But my friends were supposed to go to Pulse that night. And I didn't know they ended up going to a club down the street. So I thought they were at Pulse. And then when I woke up the next morning, I heard about Pulse, and I was freaking out. And of course they're sleeping in because they went to a club, and I was freaking out. I was sobbing. I was like, oh my God, my friends, I don't know if any of them got shot. And, you know, there's a lot of shootings in Florida, but this one was the worst. And just hearing about these poor children that have to, like, they now have, like, evacuation protocols for shootings. I can't even imagine. I never had that growing up, and just it hit home. It really hit home, and those poor babies. My heart goes out to them and their families. So, yeah, I hope they're healing, and I just, like, you hear about shootings in schools like daily now, and it's almost numbing. Like, it's almost like, oh, there's been another shooting. And it's wild to me. So, I don't know.
Angela, your thoughts?
Well, I think it speaks to our, I'm going to say societal, because I think it's worldwide, our societal mental health crisis. And it is a mental health crisis. This child obviously is troubled, obviously needed help, obviously was on someone's radar, obviously had parents that need help. I think they are obviously to buy your child a gun, that powerful gun. And I do hope they're held accountable. But I think there again, everybody was a silent bystander in this child's life that kind of looked the other way. And why was there not intervention that would have saved these lives? So it's devastating. I can't even wrap my head around the number of shootings, the number of deaths, going all the way back to Sandy Hook. So I think there's a deep problem with people not helping someone that they see as suffering. What is wrong with us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Teachers had interactions with this child. They knew he was troubled. Family members had to have interaction with this child. They knew he was troubled. Why? His family was troubled. Why can't people step in and help?
Yeah, Megan, were you about to say something?
I was just going to say that the amount of, the child was troubled, yes, but the amount of bullying, cyberbullying, especially with the technology, when I was growing up, we just had slide phones, but now I can't even imagine how much the kids are looking at the beauty standards of today, and I don't know. There's just so much bullying, and I hope they're okay.
I didn't get a chance to really say much on the shooting in the first episode of Therapy Ain't No Joke, because when we did the episode, we did it 1 week from the incident that happened. And it's so funny that you brought up Florida, Megan, because when I heard about the story that broke on the news about the mass shooting that took place in that high school, I was in Florida. And before I traveled to Florida. I had this mindset of if I'm going to come back to Georgia alive, because I've heard so many tragic events in Florida. And of course, from a reality standpoint, there's going to be some sort of crime and violence everywhere you go to. But certain things in Florida reminded me of what could potentially happen to me down there in Florida. But I was fortunate enough to come back home to Georgia and be with my friends and my family and my support system, right? But when I heard that incident for the first time, like the day before, like maybe a day or two before I traveled back to Georgia, I said to myself, I questioned in my mind, what am I going back home to? I shouldn't have to question that when that shooting happened in Georgia. And I remember texting somebody about it, and that person said, I know someone that went to that school. So it just hits home to everybody whenever there's a school shooting that takes place in a local school. You ask yourself, what am I going back home to? I'm only 2 days away from going back to Georgia. I'm here in Florida, and the story broke. And I'm like, wow. That's not only a mental health problem, that's a global problem.
Yeah.
Definitely a global problem, to what Angela alluded to. Angela, I know you gotta go. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm so sorry my camera didn't work, but I would love to come back on again if you
absolutely.
If you would have me, Sean. You're doing great work. It's really important work. Megan, I'm going to pray for your health, and I'm going to pray for your Prince Charming. How about that?
She's speaking English.
And then Sean, do you need a Cinderella? Can I pray for your Cinderella?
Yeah. Because when you told me that story, I'm like, I'm going through that right now. I'm going through that. Right.
Just give it time. Be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient. Let it happen naturally.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. But before we let you go, Angela Williams, tell us a little bit more about Angela's voice and any additional information you want the viewers to know about Angela's voice.
Yeah, well, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Angela's Voice. No apostrophe, just Angela's Voice. Would love to have you follow me. Would love to have you tune into my podcast. It's Voice Up for the Voiceless. We air every Wednesday, and we have survivors on that are able to tell their stories, and people that are working in the field of child sexual abuse and exploitation, and telling us, just educating us. You know, there's not a place to really talk about this issue in a public platform. So we like to provide that public platform. And then I've written 14 books that you can find at angelasvoice.com and under resources. And just love to share my story. I have a happily ever after story. So many don't end that way. So I'm really about breaking the silence around this issue and helping people to heal and helping people to protect the next generation of children. So there's plenty of resources there to help them to educate. But love the work that you're doing, Sean. And we don't talk about mental health enough because as children, we suffer so much and we don't have a safe place to heal. So I hope that Angela's Voice can provide resources and a safe place to heal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela Williams. And don't be a stranger. You are welcome anytime to Therapy Ain't No Joke. And I'm actually the first broadcaster in radio history to ever do a mental health show on terrestrial radio.
Amen.
But hey, that's why I'm here.
All right. Well, y'all have a good night. And to those listeners, reach out, talk to someone, be it a professional, be it a friend. Don't suffer in silence.
Absolutely. Don't suffer in silence. I'm so glad you said that. That's a great segue. But thank you so much. We look forward to having you back on Therapy Ain't No Joke.
Bye, Angela.
Bye, Megan.
Bye, Angela.
Bye, Sean.
Angela. Bye-bye. Bye. Angela Williams, ladies and gentlemen, of Angela's Voice. Once again, the website, angelasvoice.com/resources for more additional information. Don't suffer in silence. What a great way to in that part of the show, Megan, as we're getting ready to wrap up the show, we're about less than 15 minutes until the top of the hour. Still have Megan here with us. Don't suffer in silence. What a powerful statement right there. Don't suffer in silence. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you suffered in silence?
Well, my whole life. I shouldn't laugh at that. Yes, my entire life, because I feel like I am a huge people pleaser and I don't want to be a burden. So I just don't typically tell people, unless maybe it's a super close friend, but if it comes to family or anything, no, I don't tell them. So, yeah.
You know, I heard people say that I don't want to say anything because all I'm trying to do is keep the peace, or I don't want to make a scene, or I don't want to get him even more upset to where he could be more violent towards me and it could escalate into something more serious. You know, what else do you think could cause a person to suffer in silence?
I mean, in a relationship, I've had a lot of times personally, like walking on eggshells, just a lack of communication, I guess. Or with friends, I guess, yeah, I don't want to cause a fight. I don't want to fight with them. So I would rather sacrifice my thoughts and what I really feel than, us working things out.
Do you journal?
Do I what?
Do you journal? Do you have a journal that you write in? Do you have a diary?
So I write poems. And I recently started shadow work. I don't know. It's kind of like journaling. It's just because I've started like healing, meditation, that kind of stuff. So I've been working the good stuff out. And then I have shadow work, which is a journal of how you feel deep inside. So I've started doing that. It's kind of like a therapist when your therapist isn't there.
Yeah. And how's that working out for you thus far?
It works really well. Because it asks really deep questions. So I really like it, and I would recommend it to anybody who has been considering getting one, like getting one of those journals. Meditation, yes, 100%, 10 out of 10. But yeah.
In tonight's conversation, we explain why therapy ain't no joke. And it's not a joke because it helps us be vulnerable. It helps us put it in a place to get everything out that we've been holding inside of us to somebody that could have us look at ourselves and find the solutions within our everyday problems, within our everyday issues, and find other things that we could do to channel our frustration into it and to become better, productive people and to manage our well-being. As we getting ready to close out the show tonight, Megan, with where you at now in your mental health journey, what other steps are you willing to take in order to continue on the path of your mental health journey? Like it could be something as far as seeking a therapist or talking to a peer. There are peer specialists that are out there. Talking to a life coach or anybody that's in the mental health industry, or just doing other things outside of the box that you may not normally do occasionally. Like what are some other things or other steps that you're willing to take to help you in your mental health journey?
Right. So I made the step of already going to a therapist. I journal. I've started meditating daily. But I've started searching for things to do by myself in the city. So like going on me dates. I don't have to go with like
another person or
yeah. Like I don't always have to go with friends. I can go to a nice dinner by myself, or there's what else? So there's this thing that I'm gonna do next. It's my next step. And you're matched up with 5 people and you meet 5 strangers and go on go to dinner together. So you meet 5 new friends, and I would love to do that. So that's my next step. And like going to mixers where you meet friends in the city. So that's
right. Meet a lot of like-minded people.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's understandable. Well, hey, listen, it took a lot of courage and a lot of effort to come on the show and to be vulnerable, because that's what this platform is about. I'm not the type of person that's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and bring people on that's going to, of course, solidify why therapy ain't no joke. Because it ain't no joke. Whatever your therapeutic activity is, or whatever your therapy it looks like, as long as you are putting in the work and you have that positive mindset, you can go further. You can go further without having to give up, not throwing in the towel. So I definitely commend you on that on tonight's program. Well, Megan, I wish I could give you a hug in person. I'm just gonna give you a virtual hug.
Oh, thank you. I feel it.
And then just let you know that I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you. You're doing your own work.
It is. It's a lot of work. Definitely a lot of work. One thing that our lives and even the pandemic showed us is that it can make you come out stronger than ever before, or it can hold you and not let you go.
Right.
Unless you have that strength to escape from it and work on yourself. Okay, every single day. Yeah.
Self-improvement always.
Yeah. Indeed. But definitely thank you so much, Megan. And maybe we can do a follow-up in the near future on Therapy Ain't No Joke and see where you are at with your mental well-being. How's that?
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love to say hello again. And
and we're both in Atlanta. We're both in the same proximity, almost the same proximity. So we got to do a show in person.
Do it. And my mental health will be better. So, yes. And to all the listeners, you're not alone. You're never alone. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. There you go. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You got it. Well, thank you so much, Megan. We really appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds great. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is Megan, our special guest, along with Angela Williams. Definitely thank you to Angela Williams for coming on Therapy Ain't No Joke tonight. We really appreciate you all for coming on the show this evening. We do this each and every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Honey, the Flow Television Network, YouTube. And you can check out our archive shows on Spotify and iHeart under Reach One Network. Make sure to look out for Reach One Network, but all of the information and where to go to is on our website, reachoncommunications.com. That is reachoncommunications.com. I want to thank my special guest, Megan, for coming on Therapy Ain't No Joke, as well as Angela K. Williams from Angela's Voice. Thank you so much, Angela, for stopping by Therapy Ain't No Joke, and to you, the viewers and listeners, for tuning in to another great show of Therapy Ain't No Joke. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you need to talk to someone, you can contact NAMI Helpline. Please call 1-800-950-6264 Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or send them an email to info@nami.org. And there is the 988 number at the bottom of your screen there. Dial the Crisis and Suicide Lifeline 988 if you or someone you know is facing a mental health crisis. I also want to thank Ray Melody for cooking a person up with this instrumental beat that you hear in the background there. So big shout out to Ray Melody for this instrumental music theme song for Therapy Ain't No Joke. Tune in next week to another important episode of Therapy Ain't No Joke. And I am going to go ahead and sign off. All right. See you all next week. Take care.